Someone online said the NFL should just ban punting, not reduce it or tweak it, just make the punt straight up illegal. Delete it from the rulebook, tell every special teams coach in America to go find a new job. And my honest reaction was, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. You guys, punting is the most grown-up play in football. It's fourth down, you didn't get it, so you lightly hand the ball back to the other team like a responsible human being would. But then, I did the thing I always regret doing. I actually looked into it. I stayed up way too late pulling every fourth down number I could find, and somewhere around 1 in the morning, I realized I had it completely backwards. So the real question isn't should the NFL ban punting. The question is what actually happens if they do. And I ran the numbers. And the answer is so much stranger than a good idea or a bad idea. And there's one key stat I found that blows this entire thing out of the water. It's absolutely mind-blowing. This line right here is our measuring stick for the whole video. Keep it in the back of your head. It matters more than you think. So let's actually build this world. Punting is illegal. Every fourth down, you've got 3 options. Go for it, kick a field goal if you're close enough, or that's it. Those are your only options. And your first instinct is right. It sounds like chaos. Picture it. 4th and 20, you're on your own 8-yard line, it's raining. Under the old rules, you just punt it away, flip the field, live to fight another drive. But instead, now you have to play like everyone does on Madden. You're snapping it from the shadow of your own goalpost and praying the other team doesn't stop you, or you basically hand the other team the ball on the 8-yard line. In a situation like that, a good punt can offer you some relief. But in this universe, that relief is gone. So on the whiteboard, banning punting looks insane. Defenses get short fields all day, blowouts get even uglier, and the punter, a guy who has exactly one job and is guaranteed a roster spot, becomes extinct as a profession overnight. Somewhere, a specialist is quietly updating his LinkedIn profile. So that's the first verdict. As a hard rule dropped on the league tomorrow, it would be a mess. But this is where I stopped just trusting my gut. Because the whole reason punting feels mandatory is that we assume going for it is a coin flip at best. But it's actually not. It's not even close to a coin flip. And it heavily depends on the distance you're at. So here's the actual math. On 4th and 1, NFL teams convert somewhere around 65% of the time. 65%. That's better than most bets you'd ever make in your entire life. And it slides down pretty fast as the distance grows. You're roughly at about 40% by the time you start hitting 4th and 8. But even that is way higher than the basically never number living in most fans' heads. And here's the part that scrambled my brain a little bit. When the analytics folks run the expected points on a punt across most of the field, punting comes out negative. As in, statistically, the act of punting is losing you value versus just going for it, because a punt always, pretty much 100% of the time, gives the ball to the other guy unless they muff it or something. A 4th down attempt might fail, whereas a punt is basically a guaranteed surrender. In a league where offenses are this explosive, keeping the ball is worth more than 38 yards of field position. So the math doesn't think punting is safe. The math thinks punting is a sacred option, which is a wild thing to say about a play we've treated as basically just common sense for over 100 years. And hold that thought, because the league is already proving it to us right now. Because here's the thing I did not expect to find. This isn't theoretical. Coaches are already doing it right now more than they ever have. In the 2025 season, NFL teams went for it on 4th down 886 times. That's the most in the history of the league. Not just this decade, I'm talking about ever. They converted 489 of those, also a record. And for context, that number is more than double the 223 conversions the league managed back in 2017. So in 8 years, going for it didn't just tick up a little bit, it literally doubled. And 2017 isn't some random starting point either. That's the year Philadelphia rode a stupidly aggressive 4th down philosophy all the way to a title. And the single most famous play of that entire run was a 4th down call. 4th and goal in the Super Bowl, and instead of going for an easy field goal like everyone else expected, they ran a trick play and the quarterback catches a touchdown. That was the permission slip. Every analytics nerd in the building pointed at that and said, "You see, we told you." Now some of you are gonna say, "Going for it a little more is not the same as banning punting, calm down." Look, totally fair. But then explain this one to me. Over the last 2 seasons, there have been 25 separate games where a team didn't punt even once. 0 punts. And I know you've been noticing this. If you're a fan of the NFL, you've been watching some games recently and heard the announcers say something like that. And to give you a sense of how insane that is, that's more than the entire league managed to do it in the first 18 seasons after the merger in 1970. Combined. So we're basically getting more no-punt games in a 2-year span than we did over a 2-decade span. The Colts, Niners, and Packers all pulled it off in back-to-back weeks. But before I tell you how far it's actually gone, I owe you an honest detour. Because you can see it on the sideline now, it's got faces. There's a whole generation of coaches who turned going for it into a personality trait. The obvious one is Dan Campbell in Detroit. This is a guy who built an entire team identity around refusing to punt, refusing to kick. Just put the offense on the field and let it ride. And here's the honesty part, because I'm not going to pretend it always worked. In the NFC Championship a couple years back, Detroit went for it on 4th down twice, in the second half mind you, instead of taking makeable field goals, and both times it blew up and they lost the game that they were leading at halftime. Everyone killed him for it, even though it was the philosophy that had gotten him to that position in the first place. But that's the reality. The aggression cost him there, and I'm not hiding that. But here's what's wild. Even after that, even after it burned him on the biggest stage of his life, the analytics crowd mostly said that he was still right to go for it. The process was right. The dice just came up bad. And the very next season, coaches went for it even more, not less. When your philosophy survives losing a conference championship, that means it's a true philosophy, something that you actually believe in and dedicate yourself to. Suddenly, punting became the embarrassing play instead of going for it. And now nobody wants to be the guy sending out their punt team while the other coach is building a culture of going for it on 4th down. But the easy version of this is that coaches just finally grew a spine in the end, and I honestly was about to write that version. It's only about half true, and the other half is a rule change almost nobody is talking about. You see, punts aren't only disappearing because guys got braver. In 2024, the league changed the kickoff rule, then tweaked it again in 2025, and the result is that the average starting field position after a kickoff jumped by more than 5 yards compared to 2 seasons ago. 5 yards doesn't sound like much until you realize it means teams just start their drives closer to field goal range. And kickers have gotten absurd. 50+ yard field goals used to feel like a special occasion, and now a big chunk of what used to be punt territory is now quietly just long field goal territory. And coaches would rather let their automatic kicker just try one from 54 than to pin the other team on the 8-yard line with a perfect punt. So there isn't just one cause out there, it's braided. Coaches got bolder, the kickoff rule handed everyone better field position, and kickers turned into machines. And all three strangle the punt at the same time. So if I told you it was just brave coaching, I'd be lying to you, and you'd smell that, and I respect that. I respect you for that. But this is a system, and systems are so much harder to stop than a trend, which funnily enough is exactly what happened in a completely different sport. If you watch any basketball, you already know this story. 15 years ago, the mid-range jumper was completely normal. It was a respectable and actually an expected shot to be taken. Everybody took them. Some of the best players of all time crafted their entire games around it. Then analytics people showed up with their spreadsheets and pointed out that the 3 is actually worth more than the 2, and layups and dunks were just way easier than the mid-range as well. So to them, the mid-range was just a dumb shot to take. Nobody banned the mid-range. There was no rule. The math just quietly convinced the entire league to stop taking it, until it nearly went extinct on its own. That's the punt. It's the exact same movie. You don't actually need a rule to delete a play from the playbook. You just need to prove with numbers that a smarter option was sitting right there the whole time. The league actually does the deleting for you, one coach's laptop at a time. Which finally brings me to the number I've been sitting on for this entire video. The one that made me realize the question we started with is already obsolete. Here it is, the reason I saved it for last. We've been sitting here debating whether the NFL should ban punting. But go back to that measuring stick at the very beginning, the punts per game line. In 2023, teams averaged 4.2 punts per game. In 2024, 3.8. In 2025, 3.5. The lowest number in the entire recorded history of the National Football League. It's at an all-time low and it's still falling. One team this year even became the first team in league history to lose 3 separate games without punting once. They were getting beaten and they just refused to punt. The answer to what if the NFL banned punting is that they don't need to. It's already happening by attrition.